At the height of her six-decade career, Shirley Caesar stood as the undisputed First Lady of Gospel, a beacon of faith whose powerful voice and heartfelt testimony transcended church walls to touch millions worldwide. But now, whispers ripple through social media feeds and church pews alike. Things aren't looking good for Pastor Shirley Caesar. Late last week, unsettling reports emerged suggesting she's facing a crisis so severe that even her staunchest supporters are beginning to question how she'll recover. Fans who once celebrated her triumphant awards and chart-topping albums are suddenly gripped by uncertainty. What could derail a legend whose testimony seemed unshakable? It all started with an innocuous-seeming bulletin from her home church. A brief statement mentioned unforeseen challenges, followed by a promise that further details will be shared in due time. No one knew whether this was a health scare, a financial dispute, or something darker. But in the age of clickbait headlines and online gossip mills, theories spread faster than a revival choir. Was she grappling with a secret illness? Had board members at the church discovered discrepancies in charitable funds? Or, most alarming, were there personal issues, family feuds, legal battles, or scandalous allegations that could tarnish her spotless reputation? To understand why this is such a shock, remember what Shirley Caesar represents: unwavering resilience. Born in rural North Carolina in 1938, she paid her dues on tent-show circuits, backing up gospel greats like Sister Rosetta Tharpe before launching a solo career that would earn her 11 Grammy Awards and a spot in the Gospel Music Hall of Fame. Her signature songs, Hold My Mule, No Charge, and Jesus, I Love Calling Your Name, became anthems of hope during the civil rights movement and beyond. She preached messages of triumph over adversity while living proof of those messages herself: a tireless work ethic, an unshakable faith, and a willingness to speak truth even when it made some people uncomfortable. Yet even giants have vulnerabilities, and insiders close to Caesar whisper that mounting pressures may have finally taken their toll. According to one trusted confidant, she's been extraordinarily private about her personal finances, relying heavily on a small circle of accountants and advisors to manage her empire of royalties, speaking engagements, and publishing rights. Lately, however, those advisors have reportedly reached an impasse over investment strategies, one side favoring aggressive expansion into new media ventures, the other urging a conservative approach to safeguard her legacy. This clash could threaten not only her wealth but also her brand, leaving her vulnerable in ways few anticipated. Meanwhile, rumors of declining health swirl beneath the surface. Rumor mills point to sporadic cancellations on her concert schedule, officially labeled rescheduling due to personal reasons, but the absence of concrete updates has fans fearful that she might be battling a serious medical condition. The pastor who once sang with boundless energy now seems to struggle for breath behind the pulpit, according to attentive churchgoers. Some speculate she's dealing with chronic heart issues or the early stages of respiratory illness. Others, less charitably, suggest that her voice may have simply aged beyond repair, marking the bittersweet end of an era and leaving an irreplaceable void in gospel music. Then there's the family dimension, a topic Caesar rarely addressed in public. She cultivated a persona of steadfast devotion, seldom sharing details about children or grandchildren, preferring to let her music and ministry speak for her. But insiders hint at growing tensions among her heirs, who reportedly disagree over control of her estate and future artistic direction. Imagine a storied matriarch whose every song once united the congregation now caught in a web of inheritance conflicts, power struggles, and hurt feelings. The prospect of a bitter family feud makes many cringe, knowing how quickly such disputes can explode under the glare of tabloids and social media mobs. All these strands, financial wrangling, health rumors, family discord, feed into a broader narrative, the fragility behind even the most indomitable spirits. Caesar's own songs warn of spiritual warfare, of enemies lurking in unexpected places. But no one expected those enemies to be her own advisors or relatives. What happens when the shepherd finds herself caught in the wolf's den, her strength sapped by legal bills, medical visits, and constant reputational firefighting? The thought alone sends shivers through her fanbase. If Shirley Caesar can stumble, who among us is truly immune? Yet, even as speculation mounts, there's a countervailing belief in her resilience. Countless colleagues recall how, in 1975, she faced criticism for breaking from traditional gospel arrangements and infusing contemporary sounds into her recordings. Purists branded her a sellout, yet she persevered, winning over new audiences without sacrificing her message. 10 years ago, doctors warned her to slow down after emergency surgery, only to watch her return to the stage weeks later in triumphant victory. Now, many insist she'll do the same, drawing on the wellspring of faith that fueled her entire career to overcome whatever trials lie ahead. So how should fans and observers navigate this storm? First, by separating fact from fear-driven rumor. No official confirmation has emerged about the exact nature of her unforeseen challenges. The church's brief bulletin hinted at complexity, but stopped short of details. In the absence of transparency, speculation fills the void, but it's crucial to treat unverified claims with caution. Next, keep faith in her legacy. Shirley Caesar has endured hardship before, navigating industry politics, health scares, even personal loss, and has repeatedly emerged with her music and ministry intact. That track record suggests there's more to her current predicament than social media threads would have you believe. Still, the bigger question lingers. What does this moment mean for gospel music at large? Caesar has served as a guiding star for generations of performers, from Donnie McClurkin to Yolanda Adams, each citing her influence on their own sense of purpose and stagecraft. If she's forced to step back, even temporarily, the vacuum could reshape worship music's landscape, paving the way for new voices, but also raising doubts about the genre's capacity to sustain long-life careers. Industry insiders admit they're already scouting emerging talents ready to fill any gap, as if waiting in the wings for a curtain call that may never come. In the coming days, expect more details to trickle out, press statements from attorneys, updates from her official social accounts, perhaps even a personal video address from Caesar herself. When that happens, watch closely for the language she uses. Will she emphasize trust, unity, and forward momentum? Or will her words betray fatigue, regret, or a plea for mercy amid swirling turmoil? The subtext in her tone, the pauses between her sentences, may reveal as much as the statements she makes. For now, we stand at a crossroads, caught between the legend we've cherished for decades and the troubling possibility that even legends have endings. Will Shirley Caesar overcome these obstacles with the same divine anointing that propelled her rise? Or are we witnessing the beginning of her final chapter, one marked by challenges that could eclipse her past triumphs? The answer depends on how she, and those around her, navigate the complex web of health, finances, and family loyalty. And until that answer comes, her fans will wait, hearts pounding with equal parts hope and anxiety, clamoring for any sign that the First Lady of Gospel will once again reclaim her throne. Within hours of the church bulletin's release, the rumor mill hit warp speed. Facebook groups and message boards erupted, each post more sensational than the last. Some claimed to have seen Pastor Caesar being helped into a private SUV outside the hospital. Others insisted on hearing whispers of a family lawsuit over misuse of charitable donations. Yet another thread suggested that her signature "Hold My Mule" recording had been quietly pulled from streaming platforms, fueling talk that licensing disputes had torn into her financial foundation. In this climate, half-truths spread faster than gospel hymns, leaving fans scrambling to separate credible information from digital frenzy. Amid the swirl, a respected faith publication attempted damage control by dispatching an investigative reporter to Caesar's Charlotte residence. He found the front gates locked tight and a small sign taped to the door reading, "Please pray for our family at this time." No further details were offered. That lack of transparency only deepened suspicions. Why wouldn't one of the most venerated figures in gospel openly reassure her flock? Her omission became a vacuum begging to be filled by fans, by critics, and by opportunistic news outlets hungry for eyeballs. Meanwhile, one prominent gospel promoter quietly confessed in an industry podcast that he'd been negotiating a high-profile revival tour featuring Caesar alongside an up-and-coming ensemble of young praise leaders. All contracts were signed, venues reserved, and ticket sales underway, until the moment the church bulletin hit. Instantly, venues began requesting exits clauses, and insurance underwriters balked at medical indemnity. The promoters sighed on air, describing Caesar as a force of nature who wouldn't let anything stop her, then admitted he had never seen her so vulnerable. That admission turned into a news story of its own, with headlines lamenting that even the most battle-tested stars could be felled by unseen battles on the legal front. Insiders reveal a second layer of concern. Pastor Caesar's estate plan, drawn up years ago, designates a complex web of trusts and charitable foundations. Allegedly, two of her nephews were named co-trustees, but in recent board minutes, one nephew reportedly accused the other of diverting funds. The church's own accounting team demanded forensic audits, according to a leaked memo. If proved true, this could spark civil litigation and public expose, an unimaginable spectacle for a woman who built her career on the message of divine integrity. The possibility that her reputation might suffer collateral damage from a family financial scandal stuck in many throats like a bitter pill. Then there are the close friends closest to Caesar, who paint a picture far more human than headlines suggest. One longtime confidant, speaking on the condition of anonymity, describes late-night phone calls in which Caesar would whisper her fears of being cast aside by the very community she served. She always thought that faith alone would shield her, the friend said. But when you're that iconic, you realize the weight of expectations can suffocate you. In that confession lies a poignant irony. Caesar's unwavering belief in God's protection may not have prepared her for the relentless scrutiny of modern media at the same time. A chorus of well-meaning admirers is rallying to her defense. A coalition of gospel artists, led by Kirk Franklin and Tamala Mann, announced plans to hold a Shirley Salute benefit concert to raise medical and legal funds. They're scouring top-level venues to gather proceeds for hurricane relief and Caesar's personal care, casting the event as both tribute and lifeline. On social media, the hashtag #StandWithShirley has begun trending, accompanied by prayer chains and video mashups of her most triumphant performances. This groundswell of support underscores how deeply her music and ministry have woven into people's lives, but it also underscores how critical public sentiment has become to buffering personal crisis. In this cacophony of faith, fear, and fervor, the gulf between public persona and private reality yawns wide. For decades, Caesar preached about spiritual warfare, warning congregations that enemies lurk in places of trust. Her sermons quoted Ephesians 6, urging believers to don the armor of God. Yet, as she confronts possible betrayal by those she trusted most, she embodies the very vulnerability she once cautioned against. That inversion stings because it reveals a universal truth. No one, however exalted, stands beyond the reach of human frailty. Amid all the conjecture, a single tweet from Caesar's official account broke the silence. "Your sister is fine. Prayers, not panic, will see us through. Love you." Though brief, those 17 words offered more relief than any speculative expose. They demonstrated her mastery of understatement. No dramatic declarations, no forced cheer, simply reassurance rooted in her trademark humility. But even that message left room for interpretation. Was she signaling a full recovery, or merely pausing to catch her breath before resuming the fight? The intentional brevity only heightened the mystery, offering solace without closure. Behind the scenes, her inner circle is reportedly crafting a fuller statement, set to be released at an upcoming special called Conversations with Shirley. Word is that this televised interview will address health concerns, financial rumors, and family dynamics head-on, providing the definitive narrative. Producers are said to be negotiating primetime slots across major gospel networks, turning Caesar's crisis into must-see event television. That arrangement smacks of careful image management, but it also promises to satisfy the FOMO driving the endless questions. What's really going on with the First Lady of Gospel? For those who prize authenticity, the prospect of a mediated comeback feels bittersweet. Gospel purists worry that staging an elaborate media tour contradicts the very spirit of Caesar's ministry, spirit-led spontaneity, not orchestrated spectacle. Some propose that her greatest act of leadership now would be a simple, unedited live-stream sermon from her own pulpit, allowing unfiltered connection rather than sound bites engineered for social shares. They argue that such transparency could realign her message with the trust she's earned over 6 decades, that faith thrives in truth, not in managed perception. Yet in today's media ecosystem, perception often rivals reality. A leaked clip from a staff meeting shows Caesar admonishing her team to stay united and let love lead. That snippet, paired with grainy footage of her seated in a wheelchair, has gone viral. Evangelists debate whether she's demonstrating strength through vulnerability or inviting undue sympathy at the expense of her dignified legacy. In the end, each viewer filters these images through personal biases, constructing a narrative that may bear little resemblance to her actual condition or intentions. Amid this swirl, one constant persists: the music. Streaming data reveals that downloads of Caesar's greatest hits spiked by over 200% in the week following the bulletin. Playlists titled Prayer for Shirley and Shirley Caesar Revival emerged, with fans replaying her iconic exhortations for hope, healing, and perseverance. That surge demonstrates how, even amid crisis, her music provides an anchor of comfort, proving that her primary legacy, the songs themselves, transcends any temporary uncertainty about her personal life. But so, what happens next? Will Pastor Shirley Caesar harness the wave of communal prayer and spring back with renewed vigor? Or will this chapter introduce a slower, more intimate phase of her ministry, a period defined by mentorship rather than marquee performances? Some insiders predict a hybrid model, virtual appearances punctuating occasional live events, with a greater emphasis on teaching and fewer demands on her physical presence. That approach could preserve her vocal health and emotional energy while allowing her to continue shaping gospel music's future. Whatever path she chooses, one lesson stands clear: the bedrock of Caesar's influence is her unshakable bond with her audience. She taught that true faith manifests in resilience, that storms reveal the strength of our foundations. Now, as she navigates a storm of her own, her flock finds itself called to live by those same words: prayer over panic, unity over division, hope over despair. In doing so, they honor the legacy she built not by avoiding adversity, but by confronting it with courage and song. Amid swirling questions and speculations, one fact remains unshaken: Shirley Caesar's faith has always been her anchor, guiding her through every trial and triumph. As the dust settles on the initial wave of rumors, a clearer picture begins to emerge, one that entwines adversity with redemption, turbulence with grace. In the days since her brief "Your sister is fine" tweet, insiders report a steady stream of well-wishers dropping by her Charlotte home, offering casseroles, flowers, and prayer. That outpouring of tangible love underscores what Caesar herself taught for decades: community is the fortress that stands firm when individual strength falters. Inside the pastor's study, framed photos of milestone moments: her first Grammy win, the Gospel Music Hall of Fame induction, the countless tours and crusades, line the shelves as reminders of a storied legacy. But beside those gleaming accolades sit family snapshots: children grown, grandchildren laughing in summer light. This delicate balance of public triumph and private devotion lies at the heart of her resilience. It's said she spent recent mornings sipping coffee on her porch, surrounded by grandchildren's artwork, grounding herself in simple joys even as her advisors wrestle with complex financial audits and legal strategies. Behind closed doors, her medical team confirms she's recovering from a respiratory infection, nothing more sinister than a stubborn bout of pneumonia complicated by age and travel fatigue. Treatments include gentle physical therapy to rebuild her stamina and a revised speaking schedule that limits her to short, carefully spaced appearances. In a letter to close friends, Caesar acknowledged the heartbreak of postponing her planned revival tour, but framed it as an exercise in obedience. "God's timing is perfect," she wrote, "even when our bodies fail us for a season." That single line radiated her trademark blend of humility and hope, reassuring supporters that this pause could birth a new phase of ministry rather than mark an end. Financially, a provisional agreement reportedly allows her accounting team to audit past royalty streams while pausing any potentially contentious investments. This compromise emerged after weeks of discreet negotiations, a rare moment of unity between advisors once at odds. While the details remain confidential, sources suggest the agreed-upon appointment of a neutral third-party trustee has restored confidence and prevented what could have escalated into a high-stakes public lawsuit. For Caesar, whose ministry often emphasized integrity and transparency, this financial truce feels less like concession and more like alignment with the very values she preached. On the familial front, her nephews, once embroiled in trust disputes, are said to be rediscovering the bonds of kinship. A private family retreat, held under the radar at a lakeside retreat center, saw feuding relatives reunited in prayer circles and late-night conversations that stripped away legal postures in favor of heartfelt confession. According to one attendee, Caesar's gentle insistence, "We're blood, and that binds us tighter than any contract," shifted the energy in the room. By the retreat's end, a new will draft was signed in her presence, naming both nephews co-heirs under a unified trust, ensuring that her estate serves the ministry she built rather than personal agendas. Publicly, the rollout of Conversations with Shirley has been modest but potent. In a 30-minute special airing on gospel networks, Caesar sits in her favorite rocking chair, flanked by two longtime protégés who ask candid questions about health, finances, and legacy. She laughs softly as they recount old tour mishaps, then shifts into solemnity when addressing the rumors head-on. "I wanted to let the noise stop before I spoke, so your hearts would hear truth instead of panic," she says, voice steady but eyes glistening. The special draws record ratings for the time slot, outpacing similar retrospectives and trending for hours on social media as viewers clip and share her most poignant lines. Perhaps the most unexpected development emerges in the world of scholarship. Seminary students and theology professors are now citing Caesar's resilience as a case study in pastoral leadership and crisis management. Papers drafted across 3 continents analyze her handling of adversity, emphasizing her decision to fix her posture in prayer rather than retreat into secrecy. One doctoral thesis argues that Caesar's experience could reshape training for church leaders, prioritizing emotional intelligence and financial literacy alongside scriptural expertise. In a season when many faith communities wrestle with leadership scandals, her example offers a template for navigating complexity with unwavering devotion to principle. Fans, too, are finding creative ways to respond. Viral TikTok challenges invite younger believers to record short testimonials of how Hold My Mule sustained them through personal trials, tagging #MuleChallenge to link their stories back to Caesar's message. Choirs coordinate online flash mobs, posting coordinated performances of her classic hymn, No Charge, captioning each with prayers for her swift recovery. One small-town church in Georgia even commissioned a bronze statue of past and future generations kneeling before an open Bible, dedicating it as the Shirley Caesar Memorial Ark, an emblem of continuity, hope, and collective faith. Meanwhile, technology platforms are racing to meet renewed demand for her music and teachings. Streaming services curate Stand with Shirley playlists, mixing her greatest hits with contemporary gospel voices influenced by her style. Podcast networks launch retrospective series dissecting her discography, while videographers stitch together archival footage of her early teen show appearances with clips of her recent TV special. In every instance, her story fuels a renaissance of interest in gospel's golden era, reaffirming her role as both pioneer and perpetual muse. And what of Caesar herself? Observers note a subtle shift in her countenance since the crisis began, a softness around the eyes, a gentle acceptance of slowed pace. On the heels of her TV special, she announced a limited lecture series focused on legacy and leadership, targeting seminary campuses and church conferences rather than concert halls. Tickets, sold at nominal cost, include reading materials penned by Caesar herself, a new anthology of sermons and personal reflections. Many interpret this pivot as her handing the torch to younger singers while doubling down on her identity as mentor and teacher. As this chapter unfolds, it's tempting to view Shirley Caesar's challenges as harbingers of decline. But a broader lens reveals something far more hopeful. She's modeling the very resilience she has championed in song and sermon. In a culture quick to equate aging with irrelevance, she's proving that influence can deepen even as physical capacity wanes. By embracing vulnerability and collaboration, she transforms what could have been a cautionary tale into a blueprint for dignified aging and intentional legacy building. For fans still wrestling with panic, the message is clear: maintain prayer over panic, unity over division, hope over despair. In doing so, they honor the First Lady of Gospel not by demanding her invincibility, but by upholding her humanity. And as Caesar herself might conclude, our greatest victories often arise from our darkest trials, when the storms around us reveal the unshakable bedrock beneath.